Between the 1st and 20th centuries, this city was conquered only twice. In a period defined by the violent rise and fall of empires, its survival was a statistical anomaly that spanned 2,000 years. For 8 centuries, every attempt to take the city ended in a total collapse of logistics and a retreat from the gates. It wasn't that attackers lacked the will, they simply lacked a method that could overcome the geography. The physical reason for this survival was the defensive perimeter of the Roman capital. The city was encased in a series of multi-layered stone walls, engineered to absorb the impact of any projectile known to the medieval world. Overcoming these defenses would require more than a larger army. It would require the invention of an entirely new category of siege warfare. In the 7th century, the early Islamic Caliphate expanded with lethal efficiency. Within a few decades, the first 4 caliphs dismantled the Persian Empire and occupied its capital. On a map, their progress looks unstoppable, a surge of territory that covered thousands of miles in record time. But that expansion stopped at a single point. Just outside the Roman capital, the momentum of the Caliphate was broken. This started an 800-year stalemate. 4 major kings, leading some of the most powerful militaries of the Middle Ages, marched to these walls and were forced to turn back. By the mid-15th century, the city had effectively out-engineered every known method of warfare. The walls were no longer just a defense, they were a physical limit that the ancient world could not cross. The leader who eventually broke that stalemate was Sultan Mehmed Fatih. He was 21 years old when he took command. Mehmed realized that the tactics used by the 4 kings before him were destined to fail, because they respected the defensive rules the city had established. To win, he had to ignore those rules and change the scale of the engagement. He turned to engineering. He commissioned the casting of the largest cannon ever built, designed specifically to overpower the ancient stone with sheer concussive force. Transporting a weapon of this size required its own dedicated infrastructure. It took 60 oxen and hundreds of men to move the massive bronze barrel across the rugged terrain toward the city. Mehmed shifted the strategy from troop numbers to mechanical output. He was betting that the city's 800-year-old walls could not survive a level of force they were never built to withstand. The city's second defense was its harbor, which was sealed off by heavy iron chains. This made Mehmed's navy useless, as his ships were blocked from reaching the city's weaker sea-facing walls. To bypass the chain, Mehmed decided to remove the water from the equation entirely. He ordered his fleet to be pulled out of the sea and moved over the mountains. His engineers constructed a road of greased logs, creating a rolling track that allowed heavy warships to be dragged up steep inclines and down into the harbor on the other side. By sunrise, the defenders saw an entire fleet anchored in a harbor they believed was inaccessible. The geographical advantage that had protected the city for centuries had been physically relocated. The defense was suddenly pulled in 2 directions. The massive land walls were being systematically dismantled by heavy artillery, while a navy that should have been miles away was now threatening the city from the rear. The 800-year deadlock finally broke. Through a combination of overwhelming artillery and logistical maneuvers that defied the landscape, Mehmed captured the Roman capital. The victory wasn't the result of a single battle, but a 53-day siege that utilized every technological advantage Mehmed had built. The fall of the city demonstrated that even the most formidable defenses are only as strong as the era that created them. Breaking an 800-year stalemate didn't just require more men, it required a total reconfiguration of how a war is fought.